Okay, what I wanted to do in this video is I want to talk about the most common problems that I encounter with amateur golfers compared to what we see with professional golfers, particularly when it comes to things like the setup position and also the backswing. Now, with golfers that generally reach out for help, whether it's online, whether it's through that door, they're normally struggling in the downswing, so they'll sort of, be a bit stuck, or they'll know something doesn't quite feel right. But what you're neglecting is the reason for that's happening is because there's something in that chain of command much higher up, meaning your backswing or your posture, which is actually causing the problem, and it's leaking the problem further down. So I wanted to do a video where we just sort of take our time talking about some of the things that you really need to see. And like I say, I'll talk about the common amateur problems because you guys won't know you're making these, okay, until I start talking about them, and then you can double check them. So the first thing is the setup position, and I'll kind of see this kind of thing all of the time as I'm sort of setting up now, something like so, right, with most amateurs, okay? So I'll often see, particularly when I take students out on the golf course, 80% of the time aiming to the right of the target, so you're closed in terms of your setup position, okay, like so. And then what we can also see is the width of stance is narrow, so it makes it difficult to rotate. Ball position sort of relatively centre, as we can see, but this foot kind of turned out, this foot sort of turned in and excessively sort of tilted like so. So go over these again. Alignment, too closed. That's definitely a common problem that I see, particularly like so when I go and play with students. Second one, I tend to see golfers turn this foot out with the idea that it will help them turn, which we'll come back to. This foot tends to be turned in, again, causes more of a problem in the downswing. And then the ball position might be relatively centred, but end up being too tilted, which basically means that the upper body's aligned itself more over towards the right hand side. Now, what will happen from here is as you take the club back, the tendency will be, again, because you're trying to hit it from the inside, but your head will move more over towards your trail leg. Now, from the side-on perspective, what that does is that means you end up standing up. And most golfers don't realise that. But when you move too much this way, it's the same as you standing up in the backswing position. So we obviously don't want to be doing that. Now, what we're looking to do, right, makes more sense now to focus on what we're looking to do. So you're obviously trying to align parallel to target, okay? Now, the big difference is between, let's say, the width of stance, shoulder width. The reason why I want to kind of go shoulder width is because you can feel like you can shift your weight a little bit easier than if you have a narrow stance, okay? And if you have a narrow stance, it actually makes rotation a bit harder. Have a slightly wider stance, it'll make rotation feel a little bit easier. You don't want to turn this foot out, okay? Turning this foot out might feel like you're able to turn more, but it doesn't create any resistance, and you're actually after an element of resistance in the backswing. So there are tolerances in terms of where this foot should be, but what I would say is don't turn it out excessively, because in the backswing you want to feel like this trail leg is putting up a bit of a resistance to help you open up the pelvis in the downswing. If you turn this foot out too much, it's too easy to turn over it, and you can't start the downswing without shoving your arms onto it. So make sure that foot's parallel and widen it. 100% widen it. Again, I would say most golfers will get this foot sort of in line with the lead side, but this one needs to go in line with the shoulder. And then what that'll do is, as you can see, it tends to move the ball position further forward, which again is fine. Okay, because from this position now, you want to get your upper body more over your lead leg in the setup position, and it will feel funny. I've given a couple of lessons recently, students that are too tilted too much this way, and then what I do is I move them this way, up over the lead leg, open up, but when you check, you'll actually be parallel. Most golfers, like I say, tend to be quite closed in terms of that setup position. So you're going to change it quite dramatically. Normally, like I say, all you want to do is turn that lead foot out. That gets your upper body a little bit more over that lead leg. Start with maybe 60% of your weight on that lead side and just feel like you're sinking into it a little bit. This foot goes considerably wider, and just make sure that it stays roughly perpendicular towards your target. And then from here, you see, we are now in a position which will feel very peculiar for most golfers. That's obviously the feedback that I tend to get. But what you are going to do is you're now going to be in a position where from here, you're going to be able to rotate centrally, and you're going to be able to rotate and stay over the golf ball. Again, you can imagine, going back to my example I was trying to say earlier, this kind of golfer here is always going to be moving off the ball and is always going to be really struggling with the contact position itself. So when you're watching these videos, what you need to make sure is that you're double checking exactly what it is that you're doing. And again, I've done half a dozen lessons with golfers out the course, or I've been to play with golfers out on the golf course, and it's the basic stuff. You know, golfers will have inconsistency in contact, inconsistent results, inconsistent in terms of goes to the right, goes to the left, and they'll go, oh, it's because I'm not driving my elbow, I'm not clearing my hips. It's like, it's got nothing to do with any of that. It's like you can't drive your elbow and you can't clear your hips because you're aiming in the wrong direction and your posture isn't giving you the best chance to do it. So don't underestimate the posture, okay? Make sure you're getting your good angles, nice over the golf ball, get your feet position sorted out, get yourself set as I'm set up here. That's then going to give you the chance to just rotate around the spot, and then from there you can obviously try and finish the golf swing, and it's just going to make the whole process so much easier. So double check it. Let me know how you're getting on, and I'll see you soon.